Big Sills. All right, everyone's getting ready to run. Maybe I should get my shoes up. No, okay, that's going by the wayside. Today is producing day at the combines. Guys have to start running 40s. Guys have to start doing agility drills. How much does this matter when it comes to you being a football player? I don't know. I think the film is more important than anything else, right? We welcome you aboard. We got a ton of stuff today. The National Football League will never be taken off the front page of the sports page. The NBA and Major League Baseball has to do something significant. And I'm going to make a point to you. Dear Lord, I have a prayer. Please, in Major League Baseball, bring back the steroid era. Thank you. Sign Big Sills. Why is that? Because every sport needs a villain. Every sport needs content. Following LeBron James and his gimpy ass around in his loser Lakers or Russell Westbrook is not moving the needle for me. Or a moaning Embiid. Hey, I'm worried about winning the East and not MVP. Duh. Major League Baseball. What's the storyline? The best storyline, last year's Phillies, and guess what? Shohei Ohtani, a modern-day Babe Ruth. Other than that, I could put Mike Trout in a mall, or I could put him in a police lineup, and nobody on the planet could pick out a guy like Mike Trout. If I put Geno Smith in a lineup in a mall in North Philly, everybody could pick him out. Football is front and center. But now we're finding out, Tone was saying that the NFL is talking, and I heard this too, of moving the combines around like they do the NFL draft to particular cities. How cool would that be? So you have the combines in Philly, or you have the combines in Chicago. You have them down in Miami. Folks are able to get down there and watch their favorite college guys. You start selling tickets. It becomes an event and like a fair. Why not make it into a fair? Dallas, Texas, Miami, Los Angeles. You turn it into a week fair like you see in Dallas all the time. Dude, combines, man. I mean, seriously, watch this. There's going to be 25 million people that are going to watch the combines over the next couple days. And the NFL is not playing any games. I guarantee you the combines will have more television ratings than any NBA game. That's the power of the NFL. Creating content. You know, I want to say something before we get started here. By the way, really great to see Jalen Carter is back at the combines in Indianapolis. He posted a $4,000 bail, which means he only had to put up 10%. He got out of the deal and got out of the courthouse with $400. How much is that really going to impact his draft status? Is it going to be more about the loser people in the media taking shots at him? You know, I actually had a guy who posted this. This guy killed someone. How could you back him? You're like, he didn't kill anybody. He didn't kill anybody. I'll take him in a 10-second minute. I'll take him in a Philly minute. Have no problem with that. As long as more information doesn't come out that he was more involved in it. My conversation with Jalen Carter would be not why he lied, because I know why he lied. I would have lied. I would have. Jerome Brown would have lied. When you had that much to lose, my question would be, son, your decision-making. Can't have it. You've got to be more mature in this moment here. We're going to give you big boy money here. You're going to be part of the face of the franchise. You can't be acting like this. In other words, we have to be able to trust you. Tell me why I should trust you. Those are the questions I would ask him. Those are the questions. Why should I trust you after some shit like this? Why? Explain to me. I want to hear him. I want to hear him tell me why I should trust him with maybe potentially the first overall pick money. Or the Eagles pick at 10. Why? And if I'm comfortable with that, and I like his reasoning and response, I'm going to take him. That's how you get to know who a kid is. I'm going to tell you something else. That people won't go down this road. Don't you think you're going to get the best of Jalen Carter now? And the truth? He has to tell the truth. You're going to get the best interview you possibly can. Because you know why? He can't fudge the facts. Because he doesn't have the latitude to do that. And every time you ask him a question, it's going to be a sincere question. He can't lie. He has no latitude. Okay, that was surrendered. So you're going to get the best interview maybe of any prospect that's ever stepped in that building. Brian goes, take him and hire him a driver. Okay. I like it. Glad to see he's back at the combines. I want to say a couple things because sometimes when I say something and our great IT and our internet people post something, they obviously it's something that's an excerpt from the show. And I think this is a microcosm of what radio suffers from. I was just telling Tone, do you understand when they post something like a take from Frank Reich or a take from Jalen Carter that I make? It's less than 5% of what my spin is and my take is. And that's all people hear or read. Unless you consume everything that I say with my take, you look at the headlines. Isn't it great, Tone, when you watch people and how they respond to a headline? Those headlines that we drop on JAKIB Sports and that I repost over at Dan Sileo show are headlines. We're a nation of headlines. That's all you read, which means you don't read the context. This is what I said about Frank. I said one day Frank will be the head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles one day. That's okay. We got Sirianni. I know you got Sirianni. But let me ask you a question here. After Doug won the Super Bowl, did you guys have any notion that 2 years later he'd be fired? Did you have – what would have been more reasonable to think? That Carson Wentz wouldn't have been the quarterback of the Eagles or that Doug Peterson would not be the head coach of the Eagles? What would be more unbelievable to Eagle fans? I'm curious. What would have been a more shocking headline? Wentz is no longer the starting quarterback of Philly, or Doug Peterson has been fired as the head football coach after winning two NFC East titles, an NFC championship, and a Super Bowl. What would have been the bigger headline and the shocking headline to you? Keyboard Warrior says Wentz. Really? I think it's Doug. But now, we got Sirianni. You fired Doug Peterson. Doug would have been the big headline. No one would have thought that. No one would have thought that in a million years. No one. And then the comment that I threw out yesterday about Jalen Carter. I take that kid. If he's sitting there at 10 and he falls to 10, thank you very much. Or I would do this if I'm Howie. Back up all the offers. Back them up. And especially if Gonzalez or Porter or Witherspoon is still sitting there at 10 or 11 or 12, I'd be sitting here going like this. Back them up. So I got Jalen Carter. Basically, you got the best player in the draft next to Will Anderson at 10. Okay? Sitting there at 10. And the guys you really want, you're taking offers. I'll take another first next year. If you want to give me 2 2s and a 3 this year, you can have the 10th pick. Is Howie in a good position going into free agency? He's in a pretty good position here. Let's get to the topics now. Please hit the like button. Thank you guys so much for coming aboard. Do we agree that the 2022 and 2023 draft choices that the Eagles are going to make this year, these guys have to have impacts this coming season for the Eagles to be competitive? And I'm going to tell you a little bit here in my philosophy and how I think the Philadelphia Eagles could be maybe even better than they were a year ago and potentially win as many ball games. Do we agree that more of the emphasis has to be placed on the offense? And that's why they didn't really go out of the realm of really interviewing a lot of offensive coordinators, because they didn't want to ruin the continuity, right? So meaning this, I think the Eagle offense, if you put up between 65 and 70 plays a game, what does that do? That keeps the other offense on the sidelines. And most importantly, does it do? It keeps your defense off the field. This is how Brady won with sometimes later in his career, not the best defensive schemes and not the best defensive players, because they would go on these 14, 10-play drives and they would keep their defense on the sidelines, which most of the time leads to better statistics, and you would have not really a great defense, but a defense good enough to win because your offense was so potent. You're not really losing a lot of guys, and I'm going to show you how we can maybe add a couple more pieces here to make the offense even better. How many people believe that? Watch this. How many people believe going into the 2023 season that the Eagle offense will be better? I do. I do. Another year together, pretty much same personnel intact, especially skilled guys. Goddard, Brown, Devontae, Jalen. And the loss of Miles Sanders will be felt, but the loss of Seumalo is the one that hurts probably the most. Now, how many people look at the defensive side? Still a lot of question marks. We still don't know how that's going to look. However, the offense is going to be improved, in my opinion, especially if you add some components to kind of fill some voids, right? What if you draft a guy in the 3rd round? What if you put Jurgens over at the guard and he turns into a better player than Seumalo? I mean, you're hoping that. And especially with an offensive line coach like Jeff Stoutland, I'm assuming that's going to happen. So these 2022 that you drafted a year ago and these guys coming up this April, they have to be a factor, right? They have to be a factor. Okay. So let me throw this at you just for shits and giggles here. Who do you think has a better pro career with the Eagles? Nakobe Dean or Jordan Davis? Which one do you think has the better career? Who has the better, you think, opportunity at being a star in the Eagle organization? Jordan Davis? By the way, I keep hearing people want to throw the word bust out at Jordan Davis. It's too soon. Don't throw that out yet. Okay? Do not. Give the kid 34 games. Give him 34 games. Give him 2 seasons. Do you guys understand there's a reason that the average length of an NFL career, like mine, average, is 3 years? Do you understand that? Why is that? Because the 4th year, that's the year they know that you're going to be an exceptional NFL player like Barrett Brooks. Okay? People always go like this, Sills, you kind of busted out in the NFL. Well, I did have an average NFL career. Okay, I'm good with that. Not really, but you know what I mean. Okay? Dean, Nakobe, but I'm a Dean believer. He was awesome in college, leader on the field. Tony, he had great people in front of him too. I think Nakobe Dean has a chance to be a really good player if he's got good players in front of him. If he doesn't, I'm not sure he can hold up to the rigors of playing 17 ball games in the NFL on a regular basis. Watch him at last year's combine. He's a tremendous athlete for a huge man. Jordan Davis has all the skill sets, in my opinion, on being a spectacular player. Once again, Yale, he's just never lived up to his athleticism that he has shown like he did at the combines. His production doesn't fill the bucket. He doesn't fill the bucket. The guy runs a 4.78, 340 pounds. Wow. Yes. This guy runs great shuttles. Yes. Gets over the bags well. Has great lateral movement. Then you put him on a football field, plays high. His engagement sometimes is a little suspect on getting off blocks. He looks in the backfield too much, doesn't read his keys, which means he doesn't trust what he's being told. He's got to buy into the coaching staff a little more. My assessment, I watched some film on Jordan Davis, and I'm going to give you both my – remember something up for me, just so you guys have a little background. I was offered an opportunity to go into the personnel department with Ken Herrick and with the Raiders and with Al Davis. That's a fact. You can ask John Gruden or anybody that's in that organization, including Mark Davis. I had an opportunity to work in personnel in Cleveland. So when I give you an assessment on somebody, it's an assessment that people kind of trust my word on what I'm saying with this. Here's my assessment on Jordan Davis, and I'll give you mine on Nakobe. Athleticism off the charts for a big man. He's a guy that moves like Shaquille O'Neal. He's got every single skill set you want in a big man. Quick, fast, tap feet, which means that he's got great feet. Athleticism starts in your feet, not in the weight room. I tell my daughter this all the time. You want to be an athlete? Work on your feet. Your feet have to take you to play. And he's got tremendous feet. His shuttle, all the intangibles are there for him. Now you put him on a field. Lack of production is not there for me. He doesn't have a lot of production. He struggles at times with his weight. He struggles getting off blocks. He's better in a 0 technique than he is in a 3 technique. I don't think he's very good in a 3 technique. He's better in a 1, which means he's not going to be your active tackle. If you play a 43, that means one of your guys has to be in a 0 technique, a shade, or in a 1. That's usually the guy that holds down the run. That's not the 13th pick in the draft. A 3 technique is Aaron Donald, Cortez Kennedy, Warren Sapp, guys like that. Javon Hargrave. Those are 3 techniques. Why are they called 3 techniques? Well, outside shade of the guard, and their only responsibility is 1 gap. And usually the guys that are your 3 technique, they can read gaps and stances and splits, and they're really good at it. I don't think he is. I think the kid Wyatt, I think the kid Walker, and Jalen Carter at Florida, in my opinion, were superior to that in reading splits and gaps than Jordan Davis. He needs to work on that. He needs to be watching more game film. Okay? Like, I'll tell you this. If you're going to have him play in that 1 and that 0 technique, he's got to play lower to be able to take on double teams. And personally, I think he gets drilled off the ball with double teams. For a man that size, you should not be moving him off the ball. Now, when they move him around a little bit and have a little more freedom in there, he seems to be more productive. But you know what I would do? If I was Tracy Rocker and I was Sean Desai, I'd try him maybe in the 3 technique and see if he could get up the field and get in the backfield, son. You know the worst thing you could do to a guy like Barrett Brooks or a guy like Jason Kelsey? You know what the worst thing you could do is penetration. Get him up the field. Now it creates lanes and gaps But Aaron Donald has made a Hall of Fame resume doing this. Put him in a 3 technique. Run him up the field. I don't give a shit. Just get in the backfield. Knock that line of scrimmage off where these guys can't slip and scoop onto the linebackers. Do you know what a nightmare that is? Let me say this to you, too. I'll tell you what Jerome used to do. What made that gangrene defense so insane. Do you know what Jerome would do? He'd run around a couple blocks. You know why? Because offensive linemen are skilled by coaches like Jeff Stoutland that teach you technique to get your head front side on a slip and scoop. Slip and scoop means this. You're slipping the guard or the defensive tackle to get up so you can scoop them to get up to the linebacker. Kelsey's spectacular at that. How do you stop that penetration? And how you do that, you run around him a bit. Go to his backside. Slows his feet down. It slows his angle down. Jerome used to run around blocks, and he used to drive Buddy crazy. But what he did was every time Buddy asked him, hey, I had to slow down Jumbo Elliott from getting on my front side because he was getting on my front side with a flat stance and with a flat step. So Jerome made the guys, he played chess with them. Smart defensive tackles are in there playing a game with you like that. Okay? Carter, 32 tackles in 2022. How many sacks did he have, Marcus? Marcus, do me a favor. Tell me how many sacks he had. 32 tackles? I'm hoping that's not just total. I hope that's solo. Okay? 37. So, wow, 69 tackles. 69 tackles in 2 years. Man, that just doesn't seem a lot of production. Whew. Big Sills had 100 in 1 year. You know, Jerome had 100. I just like a lot of production, man. I don't know. Dominic Sue had like 90. 16 total. 3 sacks. Wow. Damn. Now, you know what the big thing is today? They rotate a lot of kids. Okay? Here, let me show you. Can I show you something from like 35 years ago? And again, under no circumstances am I telling you I'm better or worse. But I want to show you something. Okay. Here is the numbers. Big Sills, thank you for saving me while I'm working at home. I just want to thank you for being like the mainstream media destroying Jalen Carter. I believe he's made a mistake. Absolutely. That's all it is. As you can see, Big Sills right here had 50 solo, about 87. Here, I'll read it. I had 87 total tackles, counting the bowl game. Now they do today. I had 7. I had 94 tackles in 1 year. I led the Canes in tackles for loss. Winston Moss, who was a second-round pick. Danny Stubbs, who was a first-round pick. Jerome Brown, who was a first-round pick. Bill Hawkins, who was a first-round pick. I led the team in fumble recoveries and the defensive line in solo tackles, 50. So you're telling me between Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, these guys had 67 tackles in 2 years is not a lot of production. But what Jerome had 75 tackles this past my junior year, his senior year, but the year before he had 114. They do a lot of rotating today. They play a ton of guys today, especially at Georgia and Alabama. I was never a fan of rotation because I don't want – now, I had Cortez Kennedy and Russell Maryland behind me, but they were young kids. Sills, if Witherspoon, Carter, Murphy all are at 10, who do you take? You got to take Carter. He's the better player, the more impactful player. The need of position. That would make me also do this then, Jeremiah, that I'm going to sign CJ, maybe drop him over to corner, and then take that safety from Bama. Okay? I might do that. They're going to have to get cheaper and younger on defense. Like I said to you yesterday. Yeah, Yale, these guys today, they use like a ton. So I've always, and I talked to Mario Cristobal about this. I'm like, man, these guys don't have big numbers any longer like I did. And they're like this, but they do a lot more rotating. Now, I love this kid. DT from Pitt. Kalijah Cansey ran a 4.78, 6 feet 280. Put that in perspective with Jordan Davis running a 40 at 6'6", 340. Davis better get it together in year 2. Think of that. Look at the size of that kid. That's more me, the Pitt kid. Jordan Davis is Jordan Mailata running like that. That's unheard of. Jordan Mailata's a freaking great athlete as well. Okay? Dude, when you get people moving that big, you have to draft them. Shit, you could make Jordan Davis maybe an offensive tackle. He's so athletic. Marshall, I like the kid Ringo too. I do. Dude, I am not passing on. I get it. I thought 13 was high for him, though. I thought 13 was high. Now, again, the production angle and how people do things today, I just don't like all the rotating because you don't get a sense of production. Terrence says that Carter's not the impactful guy that, no. See, he's doing it wrong. He named a player versus a position. That's not right. What Coach Terrence just did. That's a misleading statement. He put a player's name versus a position. Carter's a better player than Witherspoon. And will have more impact in a football game than Witherspoon will because he's better. Now, DT versus corner, you're right. Corner's more impactful. But that's the problem you get with people. They'll put a player's name versus a position and go like this. The corner's going to be more impactful than the player. Of course he is. Unless you're putting one of the better players at that position versus a corner pool, that's not how that works. Difference of opinion, Coach. Your opinion, my opinion. We'll agree to disagree. Why? Hey, this kid's a great football player. And there's a reason he's been graded the top player in the draft. Him or Will Anderson. There's a reason. So wait a minute. Get this. Here's the issue that you have here. You'd rather draft a guy 5'10 and a half and take a gamble on Bryce Young, who weighs 102 pounds, and he's 5'10 and a half, and you'd rather put him the number 1 overall selection? What's more of a gamble, Jalen Carter or a guy who is as small as a placeholder? Howie is always, that organization has won in Philadelphia because of one thing. They prioritize, absolutely, like Yale says, both lines. Think about it. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, bringing in Hardgrave, Jason Kelsey, Mailata, Lane Johnson. I mean, go down the list of all the great players. The two positions. The thing that the Eagles have dominated the league at, they have done. Here, let's do this. the Eagles last year had the best combination, once again, of D-line and O-line of any teams in the league, and that goes back to 2017. When you have that combination, you can't be beat. That team at 17 beat the Patriots up with both lines, beat them up. There was a white flag that was waved at the end of that game. A white flag. They beat their ass up. Marshall says it's really nothing to discuss if we don't take him. If he slides, which I think he will, Dallas will take him and will face him for years. Yeah, that'll be a fact. So this is what you do too. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis is your two tackles with Milton Williams. Look at the little money you're paying for, in my opinion, that's an upgrade. You got cheaper and you created more of a foundation in your tackles again for the next 5 years. Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter. This gives you latitude to go get a linebacker, to fix your secondary and move the pieces around. And in the process, like I said, with one more year on the extension for Jalen, you might be actually able to upgrade your defense. I think you upgraded your defense already with the coordinator. Cody says, I'd prefer a top DB at 10, even if Carter's there. So you would take the lesser player because of the position need and because there's more of a priority on corners. So you would pass on the better player. To draft a position of need is how you fail and sign Jalen Reagor. You signed a better guy. And Philadelphia doesn't have a high success rate on defense in the draft. Who, in the last 20 years, has been an impactful player that they've drafted on defense? Let me think. Fletcher Cox. Rest of them dudes, they haven't had a high success rate on defense drafting. They have not. I mean, every position this past season was addressed in free agency. Brandon Graham's a good player. He's not elite. Brandon Graham's a fine ball player. I wouldn't put him in the top 10 defensive ends over the last 10, 15 years. I would not. He's a fine ball player. Fine ball player. Josh Sweat has a chance, Jeremiah. I think this year he made leaps and bounds in getting better as a three-down guy. Okay? Getting better. Seals, is it true that Hargrave signed? Antonio, here's the pre-March 15th, what players do and what agents do. The organizations legally are not allowed to talk to players. However, representatives can talk with teams, and they do. And they get a sense of this. Watch this. I'm not saying that the deal signed, but watch this. An agent will call up Seattle and go, hey, man, what are you thinking here? What are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for a defensive tackle to sign a contract at 5 years around $61 million. That number's a little light there, Hoss, because the Eagles put a number on the table for $51 million, and it's in the 60s, okay, for Hargrave. That number's a little light. That's how they get around it. Is it tampering? Yes. But is it, as my boy Tone would say, technically, okay, technically it's not tampering, but it's kind of tampering because you know who they're talking about. They just don't name names. That's how agents. I've talked to agents. I've talked to Lee Steinberg. I've talked to Drew Rosenhaus. That's how they deal with all this. And that's why you see these deals falling as soon as 4 o'clock hits on March 15th Eastern time. You start seeing these deals just start falling. You're going, holy cow, they've already got the deal worked out. They got the signing bonus worked out. Well, how the hell do you think they got there? How the hell do you think they got there? They got there because they already pre-negotiated the signing bonus and length of years in the framework of the deal. Everyone knows that. Where you get the steals is this. Because if you're not signed within that first 24-hour window, then you get agents and players starting to panic. Where am I landing? There's so few chairs. If you're not in that first window of free agents, and then say you're in that third window, then you're in trouble. Then you're going to take the best offer on the table. And that's where Howie has really done a great job. Howie gets those guys and those agents to start panicking. Okay? When you start to see a diminished market for you, you start grabbing at the next best deal. Because you know there's only 53 dudes in a room that are active on Sundays, man. And your position, depending on what that team is, those chairs, they start disappearing quick around the league. And you start going to your agent and you're calling him going, dude, day 3 here, man. I don't have a gig yet. What are we doing? Kansas City's got a deal on the table for 1.5. Holy shit, we wanted 3. You ain't getting it. Sign it. That's how you land Kaiser White. Okay? Tampering. Really? Come on, man. Tampering? What are you, crazy, man? Ain't no such thing. Those deals are going to fall. Here's what I suggest, and here's what I'm predicting. Jordan Hargrave is going to sign a contract. Boy, Seattle, Chicago, New England. New England, will they give that? They've paid that money. See, New England's got to overpay now because Brady's not there anymore. 2 years ago, they spent $350 million in free agent money. Would they do that again? Maybe. Hargrave, Minnesota, they got a ton of money. Bears have a shitload of money, though. See, if I'm a free agent right now, I want to play in Chicago. They got all the money. The Giants have some money. I play in New York. Dude, this is not about whether or not I fit in your system. This is about salary cap space. Well, Hargrave will fit in Seattle. Yeah, well, I fit better in Chicago. Why? Because they got more money. And they need me more. They were horrible against the run. Javon Hargrave, to me, is a Chicago. That looks like Chicago to me. $18 million, $63 million, something like that he's going to sign. Probably there or Seattle. Dude, so wait a minute. Watch this. A deal's on the table and almost signed. He's probably got 4 of those deals almost signed and done. Then it's going to come out to the highest bidder. Gardner Johnson is an intriguing one because you know what most teams are looking at him as? They're looking at Gardner Johnson like this. You know, if we pay him as a safety. You guys remember Jimmy Graham tried to get wide receiver money? Remember he tried to get wide receiver money when he was down in New Orleans and they labeled him a tight end? And organizations were using him in the slot and they were using him as a wideout. And it used to aggravate. I know Jimmy. Jimmy's a Miami Hurricane. And he used to get so pissed off at teams. There were times that he would have more plays as a wideout in New Orleans than as a tight end. And he got more targets. He goes, oh, then why aren't you paying me as a wideout? Well, because you're designated as a tight end. You see, CJ is designated as a slot safety. And I'd be like this. Well, I would sign him for 14-4. And the NFL being the hemorrhoids they are, I'll put them over at corner, man. Save myself $3 million on my cap. That would be uncool. But since when is the league looking to make a deal for you? They're looking to do what's best for the organization. How many times do your GMs at the combines telling you that now? Hey, we're going to do what's best for the team. You know what best for the team is? Signing C.J. Gardner-Johnson as a safety and playing him as corner is best for the team. Okay? That's what's best for the team. Not best for him. Got to remember that. So would teams go 14-4 thinking they got a deal on him? Probably. He's going to get a lot of looks, man. He's going to get a ton of looks. Cincinnati may pony up with that. Duke Tobin, they need help in the secondary after they lose Bates. I don't get that deal, though. So you're going to let go of Bates, but you're going to try to sign another corner or a safety. I don't get that. You're probably going to draft one in Cincinnati because Bates is going to command a lot of money on the open market. Yeah, look at the cap space where your Eagle guys are going. TJ is going to get – TJ's probably right now probably got 3 deals on the table with his agent. I'd say between 4 and 7 million with incentives, somewhere in that range. I would say Kaiser White probably has a limited market. He's probably going to be a day 2 or 3 dude. They're going to see how everything settles and where guys land. Kaiser White's not a first-day guy. He's more of a second, third-day dude. Sayamalo's a first-day guy. Holy shit. Sayamalo probably has a deal on the table with San Francisco right now at $15 million a year. Probably. You put him on that line with Trent Williams, that center's pretty good. I'll tell you what, man. San Francisco got better. So you improve that line along with the other line, man. San Francisco's going to be a force if they can figure that dude out at quarterback. I say he lands there. Bradbury's going to go to the Raiders, in my opinion. The Raiders have needed help in the secondary so bad, and they have some money now that Carr's going to be off the books. There's still going to be some dead cap money, but because, you see, you got to remember something too. You see dead cap money. The new collective bargaining agreement that was agreed on a couple of years ago allows teams now to defer that money out. So if you've got a big cap hit from a guy like, say, Matt Ryan or Carson Wentz in Washington now, you could defer some of that money out over a period of time, and it won't be as devastating of a cap hit. As long as you start renegotiating contracts on your team, then like the Terry McLaurin will probably have to redo his contract for Washington. If they're interested in getting Derek Carr, they're going to have to probably go down that route of redoing that contract. I would say Jonathan Allen's deal will probably have to be redone. They're going to get Chase Young back. He's still, I still think Chase Young's on a rookie deal. I'm not sure. See who else. I think Fletcher will be a day 2 dude. Fletcher, you know what? Because Fletcher had 7 sacks, 32 years old, he might want to wait until training camp, okay, to see how everything lands after the draft. You see, that's also a factor in free agency. You know, I mean, if you're not taken on day 1, do you know what that means? Some teams may just wait until after the draft to address it. And then they'll look at the draft and go, is there a guy in this draft here that's better than Bradbury at corner? Let me ask you this. Are you sold that Witherspoon's better than Bradbury at corner if you're the Raiders? Or do you get Bradbury now and pay the freight for it? How does that affect my cap? Who's going to be my quarterback? Or is it going to be Rodgers? That's a $60 million hit to my cap now. So you got to put all that in there. Again, it's playing the money game along with the talent game and the need game. See, you might need a guy, but you may have to settle for a lesser guy at that need position. That's how this works. Hey, Sills, we need a corner. Yeah, okay, well, what kind of corner? Veteran corner? Rookie corner? Rookie corner? So you want to go cheaper then. That's my first thought. Eagles want to go cheaper on defense? Okay, fine. Who's playing your safety positions? So you're going to put a rookie corner out like they did in Kansas City. Obviously, that means to me you're paying your quarterback. Okay? What are you doing at linebacker? Nothing. You're going to have a rookie corner, new set of linebackers, and a new set of DTs with a rookie at corner. I don't know. That's a lot of insecurity for me if I'm Sean Desai going into mini camp and rookie camps and then training camp. That's a lot. Dean will play well. You sure about that? I'm not. What makes you... Dude, these people that think that Nakobe Dean's a good player, that's guesswork. And you keep throwing the word potential at me. And I keep throwing this back at you. You know what potential means? You haven't done it yet. Potential is you haven't done it. Nobody says Patrick Mahomes has potential. Nobody says Jalen Hurts has potential. Nobody puts the word potential around A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. Because they are. And they've lived up to their potential. Jordan Davis, potential. Nakobe Dean, potential. It's a code word for, I don't know. Potential. I mean, it's the most overused word in professional sports. It's the most overrated word used ever. Potential. Carson Wentz had potential. You don't know what Nakobe Dean. We're still in the potential stage. Jordan Davis, we're still in the potential stage. This is why I like Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat is kind of climbing out of that potential stage. Okay? He's climbing out of that. 3-down guy, gets off blocks well, sets the edge pretty well, pass rushes pretty well. I'm good with him. He's not Brian Burns, but he's kind of a cheap man's version of that dude. Getting better and better and better. He continues to flourish. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Do you guys remember a dude by the name of Burt Grossman? He used to do television in Philly, and he was a friend of mine. And he played with the Chargers, and he had 20 sacks in 2 years. Do you guys remember Burt Grossman? He did some TV also in the Philly area. I think he played for you guys a little bit. Okay? His first 2 years when he came out of Pitt, he had 20 sacks. They changed the system on him. He never duplicated those numbers ever again. So be aware of that. For Josh Sweat, how is he going to fit into Sean Desai's future? Okay, how does he fit in? Are guys going to get better or worse? Does this mean when you hire a guy like Sean Desai, does that mean that attracts Gardner Johnson more to come back? Or does that repel him? All of this plays into it, in my opinion. Okay? I mean, Coach, I'll say this. Here, I'll just to go on what Coach Terrence said a little bit about Jordan Davis, and I'll say this. He hasn't wowed me for the 13th pick, and he's right on that. He's not wowed me. Get this, and guys, understand this. The wow me factor can't be a 40-yard dash. The wow factor has to be 11 sacks like Hargrave. Running a combine drill should not be your best achievement. Well, Jordan Davis was awesome at the combines. That's not really talking football to me. Take it from a combine freak. Nobody had better numbers than me. Take it from me. that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a long, lengthy NFL career. Okay? If you're telling me the greatest accomplishment so far in Jordan Davis's brief NFL career is a 4.78 at 348 pounds, that's not an accomplishment. That's not an accomplishment. Okay? When I watch a player play, I want a wow factor. When I watch Sauce Gardner play, wow. Wow. That's a player. When I watch that kid Walker run the ball in Seattle, he's got a wow factor to him. You know, I'll say this to you. I don't think there's a player in this draft that's worth moving up into the top 10 for. And you're going to see people move up in the top 10. You know why? Because they're going to panic. Organizations like the Arizona Cardinals panic. The Jets panic. Okay? Carolina panic. The Jags used to. Doug won't. Belky would. Doug won't. New Orleans has panicked twice this last year, losing to one and then losing Gardner Johnson. Look at what they did. They rolled the dice on Honey Badger over Gardner Johnson and lost. The only way they got a first-round pick this year is because Denver sent them one. Because of Sean Payton. Mickey Loomis, the GM, knew he was at least getting that back. But he should have had 2 ones to address his quarterback issue. They're in holy hell, salary cap hell too. So you're in salary cap hell. You're lucky you got a 1 back because of Payton. I mean, that was a solid that Sean Payton did in New Orleans, getting a 1. Or that thing, boy, New Orleans is in a train wreck right now. I don't see New Orleans doing anything unless Aaron Rodgers lands there or Derek Carr. And I don't have the money for it. You just don't have the dough. Jets did a great job. The wide receiver they got and the corner. I think Joe Douglas is doing a great job, except for one thing. They fucked up on the quarterback again, which has been a standard operating procedure in New York with the Jets. Who's the last decent quarterback they've had in that building? And don't tell me the butt dude. Probably Chad Pennington. Chad Pennington? Joe Namath. Really? Vinny and Richard Todd, I guess, a little. But, I mean, since Namath, Richard Todd, Vinny, and Chad Pennington, and a little bit of Mark Sanchez. That's not a quarterback lineage since you signed Namath in 65 or whatever it was. Since 65, you've had 4 quarterbacks. The Jets are notoriously, it's a landfill for you to go there and die if you're a coach or quarterback. You want to hear something even more? What makes the Eagles even better? Can you name me a coach in New York Jets history that has a winning record as a coach in New York? Name me one. Name me one. There is one. And one guy had 1 year, and I don't count him. Can you name me one coach in New York's history since the Jets have been the Titans to the Jets, Titans to Jets, one coach that has had a winning record? Tone nailed it. Bill Parcells. Al Groh had 1 year. He was 9-7. The rest of them, including Weeb Ewbank, who won Super Bowl III, all losing records. And Weeb Ewbank was the coach before Shula in Baltimore that won those championships against the Giants. His legacy was set. It didn't matter that he took on the Jets. It still mattered that he won 2 of the most significant games in the history of the league. The 56 title game, Colts and Giants, and Jets and Colts in Super Bowl III. Other than that, Weeb Ewbank, okay. Parcells is the only guy. The Jets have been a train wreck. Joe Douglas is trying to turn that around. They need a quarter. Aaron Rodgers goes there or Derek Carr goes there. The Jets are somebody, I guess. The Jets. That's why I make fun of them. Jets fans are people that pull the scab off before it's healed every season. Every season they pulled the Band-Aid off the scab and it's never healed. And it's back to scabbing again. I mean, they're almost like Met fans. Okay, can I tell you what Met fan is? He's the guy every fall, or excuse me, in April that starts with the Met hat. Then as the fall comes, he turns his hat inside out and it's a Yankee hat. That's who Met fan is. He turns his hat inside out in the fall and he's a Yankee fan. Hey, I thought you had a Met hat on in April. I did. Oh, it's an inside reversible hat. Met fans have reversible hats. Yankee fans in the fall, Met fans in April. That's why a city like Philly, man, that's why they shit on organizations like the Flyers. Hey, congratulations. I never thought I would ever say this to Philadelphia sports fans. I didn't know that they moved Madison Square Garden to the Wells Fargo Center. Congratulations. What an embarrassing moment for your city. You had Ranger fans invade your property and your domain and turned it into Madison Square Garden South. Holy shit. The Flyers, Ed Snyder must be absolutely right now looking down, and he must be shitting on that organization. I cannot believe, guys, I cannot believe that the Philadelphia Flyers are in the position, and I love torts, that they're in. It's a disgrace. It's not so much the melted ice every time the players step on it. It's the melted legacy that was there. Man, Ranger fans invading Wells Fargo. That's shit for the Rams. And other places with shitty sports fans, like all the LA fans. Not Philly. Man. Hey, seriously. They should boycott that whole thing. Never go there again until you fix that shit. That's a disgrace. An utter disgrace. Unbelievable. That's why the Eagles own that city. Phillies, too, got Dombrowski. Look, there's no coincidence when you've got Dave Dombrowski running the Phillies and you've got Howie Roseman running the Eagles. The Sixers sit around, and you know what? Sixers aren't going to win anything. Because you know why? They have an inbred culture that they lose, and it's cool to lose. Come on, man. Hey, let's keep losing until we get all the first-round picks, and then maybe we'll win. And then we could draft Ben Simmons. Yeah, okay. You got what you deserved. You put Sixer fans and Philly sports fans through hell so that you could draft Ben Simmons and Marcus fucking whatever his name was? Come on, man. You want me to buy season tickets? Sixers and Flyers, man. I mean, who would have thunk that? Especially the Flyers. I want to tell you guys a story about Philly fans first. Do you know that, for 15 years I was down in Tampa, and every time the Flyers came down, and whether it was at the Cow Palace or whether it was at the Trop or whether it was at the new place they have now, Flyer fans invaded Tampa and went into that place and made that place a hellhole for every Bolts fan there was. Do you want to hear something even crazier about Flyer fans and Philly fans? They have a rule in Tampa now. I was there when Jeff Vinnick bought the team, and then they went in there and they instituted a rule that they would never allow opposing teams to wear different gear on the lower bowl. It was because of Flyer fans. That rule was instituted. I was there when Jeff Vinnick bought the team. He was part owner of the Boston Red Sox. And Todd Lewicki, who was the president of the team, goes, we're not having any Flyer fans down there on the lower bowl, or Red Wing fans or Ranger. Not having that. And it was always because of the Flyers. Now, that shit's embarrassing, man. Hey, listen, top running backs to draft. That's a position that they have to take a look at, right? Can I do something here? I made a list of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFC. Also, free agent running backs. Do you want to go free agent running back and spend money? Or do you want to go into the draft and get cheaper in the draft and your roster cheaper because you got to pay your quarterback? I got the list of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFC heading into the draft, free agency, and into minicamp and rookie camp. I want to do that. Do me a favor. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National